One of the main books I recommend for most clients is Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff. So I believe compassion, self-compassion is the ticket to growth.
Tara Garrison, I feel bad because I didn't hit record right away, but as soon as your face lights up the screen, you can tell this tremendous powerhouse energy. So I think the first thing we need to do is tell us your Instagram account, because when you go on there, you get the same incredible energy, motivation, and also the skillful execution of the exercises. I learn so much every time I look at you. My special favorite recently was where you're doing the one-legged split squats, and you're like, people, don't push down on your back leg. That's cheating. I'm like, oh crap. No wonder my back leg gets sore because I'm using it to do the one-legged squat
Yeah.
instead of the proper manner. Okay, where do we go on Instagram for energy and inspiration?
It's Coach Tara Garrison, and it's Tara. And it's the same thing on TikTok as well. And a lot, if you like just mostly workouts, TikTok is mostly workouts. Instagram is all of me. My stories, it's all of it. It's the mindset coaching, the workouts, the nutrition, like all of that. But if you just like workouts, TikTok's the place. And yeah,
Mm.
those Bulgarian split squats, I'm like, I'm calling you guys out, because when I hear people say, "Oh, I don't think they're that hard," I'm like, I know exactly what you're doing. You're leaning on that back leg. You're just kicking yourself right up.
So tell me about when you turn the phone on when you're driving and you just get these stream of consciousness, and what's that all about?
That's exactly what it is. Like, my whole life is led by intuition. My whole business, I consider myself highly connected to my intuition, and just sometimes stuff will just flow through me, and it's like, now share it, go, And so I just listen to that. I just honor that. So it's usually like something, it's like, I don't know, I get a ping that I feel that it's needed to share a message, and I just honor it. And that's most of my social media. Sometimes it's like a workout, but even with workouts, I'm like, I really check in and I'm like, does this seem like this would be beneficial to people? Like, it's this kind of like check in with myself. Should I share this? It's like, yeah. People need that. So I kind of live my whole life that way. And so that's what you see on those lives.
That's an interesting word. It's like my favorite concept relating to athletic training, especially my career as a triathlete, where I had so many struggles trying to adhere to a fixed and rigid schedule because I
Mm,
was so focused, disciplined, and competitive, and then
mhm,
getting my ass kicked over and over. I
mhm,
realized that I had to cultivate my intuition to be my
mm,
best as an athlete, and that meant
mm,
often departing from the plan and giving myself
mm,
permission to rest more.
mm.
And then on the flip side, which is not talked about enough, I think, but when I was training from that intuitive base, I could also at times push myself way beyond what I thought
Yeah.
was capable because I didn't have these constraints on either side. So I'd
Mhm,
go and ride 200 miles with Johnny G one day when
mm.
I thought 100 miles was a long ride. But
Wow.
when I was able to break free from this mindset that
Mm,
I had to check boxes every day, I had to be constrained, and
right.
we go through school and we go through life with everyone trying
Right.
to control us. And then when you can escape from that, it sounds like you've had a similar experience or
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. I love hearing that, because what happens is, instead of being this kind of victim of these external rules of I'm supposed to blah blah blah, which completely disempowers you, you're in the
Mm.
moment. You're with yourself. And like, I always tell even my clients, I'm like, listen, like, I don't know what happened yesterday emotionally to you, if you just got some horrible news and it just freaking gutted you, or if you slept terrible last night, or, there's all sorts of factors on the daily. Like, so don't, like, yes, these are my recommendations for you, but also, like, if you slept terribly and you're like, you're sick or something's going on, like, please give yourself the freedom to rest, go for a walk, And so a lot of what
Mm.
I'm teaching my clients is that same intuitive thing, because when you're with yourself, I love what you said, is like higher performance. I used to run marathons for a long time. That was my thing.
Sorry to hear that, Tara.
And like, for me, I would wear a Garmin in the
Mm.
races, but I would never look at it during the races. I only wore it because I wanted to see the splits afterwards, because I knew that if I used this external device, like, there were times I was running 5 minute something pace in the middle of a 26-mile marathon, that looking back on those, I'm like, that would have psyched me out. If I saw on mile 8 that I was running like a 5:50 pace and I looked at it, I'd be like, "Oh my dude, slow down,
Mm.
slow down." And so I preferred to run intuitively, to just whatever feels good right now, just do that. You got energy, go. You need to slow down a little, fine. Like, and
Mm.
staying in the moment, I do find the same thing is it leads to better performance overall because you're working with, there's a quote I love, I'll share real quick. It's from like Sherlock Holmes TV show or something, but it is like the best quote on intuition I've ever heard. And it's intuitions represent too many data points for the conscious mind to comprehend. I love that. So like that, when you're eating intuitively, working out intuitively, like with your sleep, with your mental stress, your bandwidth, like what you can handle, if you will just come back into self and it's like, what do I need right now? The whole path gets so much easier. And I find it leads to much higher performance than this like small box that we put ourselves
Mm.
in of I have to do what big mean mommy Tara, coach Tara says I have to do. Like it's so beneath us, you know? So it's like, yes, it's good to have a plan, to have a path, but like also honoring yourself and following like what your heart is saying, what your body's saying, what your soul is saying, your gut. Like to me, that leads to higher performance overall. So I live my whole life that way.
So you've created a life that allows you to listen. And what I see generally
Mhm.
is the more regimentation we have in place, we don't even have time to check in with our intuition.
Right.
It's buried.
Right. And I am the most, I say this with love and not to be annoying to people. Like I've realized this is probably true because I used to be overweight, but I am the most effortlessly lean, strong, feeling amazing. Like it feels pretty much, it's just in flow with my life because I'm living this way. When I used to have still a little bit of like, okay, well, don't eat too much today, or oh, you better
Mm.
hit a little more cardio today. And like all these external things I was supposed to do, it was always hard. It was always hard to maintain my physique, and I just didn't feel as good. Now it's just like, are you hungry or are you not? Okay. You know the ropes. Like, do you need more protein? Do you need more fat? Do you need more? Like, what are you needing right now? Oh, yeah. It's just easier. It's so much easier. And it has yielded better results for me in terms of body composition, athletic performance, everything by just honoring what I need as I go, being, as Ram Dass says, be here now.
So you're saying that you're not constantly stressed and lit up about maintaining your six pack. You do it effortlessly, which I'm asking in jest here, but it's also probably an important topic to discuss because I think a lot of the influencers and the people we see representing the highest level of fitness and
Yeah.
peak performance are really worked up and tightly wound at all
Mhm.
times. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem that healthy to me, even though they're getting these tangible results like the glistening female six pack.
Mhm. Yeah, well, what's been interesting is, like, I'm actually kinda shocked. Like, it's been a aha for me because I went from overweight to that, to what you're talking about. I went
Mm,
through that
you went
phase
on,
of
you touched on
psycho
all
yeah.
the edges of the teeter totter, huh?
Yes, I went from standard American diet, like, as bad as that gets, honestly, to psychotically obsessed with
Mm.
fitness, like, I would say definitely bordering, like, exercise bulimia, orthorexia, you know what I mean? Like, just way too my whole life was wrapped around it, to now being in the middle. And I've been like that's what's been shocking is like I was like, "Oh, wow, it can be ease." I didn't realize like I'm quite frankly kind of surprised how little effort I feel like I'm putting in, at least mentally, right? Like I have the
Mm.
habits in place. I loved, but my reasons are different, right? I love to go to the gym. I
Mm.
love it. It's playtime for me. It's recess. I love like being like a dog with my tongue hanging out, running sprints and lifting heavy. Like it's literally fun for me. And then I also honor like, okay, like I take so many supplements because I'm like, why not? I've run labs on myself. I have all the like I'm so lucky I get to nurture my body with all these
Mm.
things. Like, and then food, it's like it's honoring. If I need more sleep or I'm more hungry, less hungry, it's just a very honoring mindset, right? Or if one day I get to the gym and it's like, no, dude, like you need a chill day, I'll just walk,
Mm.
and like honoring that, I've been surprised how much ease and like I really truly didn't know it was possible. But I think actually a lot of that kind of psycho route I took I learned a lot in that route. I learned about macronutrients. I learned about food quality. I learned how to train. I learned a lot of the ropes through that crazy time. So I actually think like everybody's journey looks different, But I don't know that I could have gone, to be honest, I don't know that I could have gone from like standard American diet to like where I'm at
Mm.
now without going through that intensive, crazy time.
Right, it's like politics. We have to have kind of a slingshot. If we get
Mhm.
something extreme, we often try to work our way back to that
Mhm.
eventual goal of being in balance. But take us from the one extreme to the other with some more detail. So you used to
Mm.
be quite unhealthy, and how did you get there? And
Okay.
how'd you become interested in like turning the corner?
So I mean, I grew up, I was always one of those kids that was kind of chubby, right? Kind of overweight, not obese, but overweight,
People,
right?
if you're watching on YouTube right now and you're seeing the muscle definition in her shoulders as she gestures about the chubby kid, it's absolutely I'm not sure I believe you. You might have to show some pictures. Okay, okay.
There's
Yeah, so
some
you
deep in my Instagram. I haven't posted
yeah.
for a while, but they're
That's a
there.
good interesting point because I think a lot of people form these fixed and rigid beliefs that they have a certain body type just like their mom and their grandma, and they feed into this
Yeah.
their entire life. So maybe you did grow up the chubby kid due to whatever influences, including familial genetics.
And lifestyle, mostly lifestyle, 'cause
Yeah.
I grew up poor, and so the food that was and it was that time period. I was born in 1982, so, like, it was, like, right through the thick of, like, everybody just eats fast food, like, that nobody really even, like,
Sure.
knew about health. Gyms? Nobody went to gyms when I was little, and so, actually, my mom ran in the Olympic trials for track, so she was, like, kind of an ectomorph naturally, and then my dad is kind of like a mesomorph, I've realized. I've watched it now that I know more. I'm like, interesting. So for me, it was purely lifestyle. Just not once I was chubby, I was too afraid to try out for sports.
Mm.
I felt like all the kids would be better than me. So, and then, eating standard American diet growing up, having 4 kids. And after my fourth, I don't know, because I didn't test, but I would say I was, guessing off of the work I do now, somewhere between like 35 and 40% body fat. And then for me, the trigger, which I openly share often, it was trauma. It was marriage trauma. Developed this belief system that I wasn't enough. So that's why I went so hard in that direction, because it was a total trauma response of I need to be better, look better,
Mm.
like I can fix this myself, just all this muck that needed to be dealt with, which I have, but that's what drove me into that really extreme place, was pure trauma response. And I'd say most of the people that I work with that are in that really extreme place, it is some sort of trauma response to be that
Mm.
extreme. Of like proving, when we get deep on the deeper layers, there's some sort of like proving I have to be like that to be safe, lovable,
Mm.
worthy, blah, 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 even though they might not want to admit that. But
Mm.
I'm not saying that's always the case. Very common though. And so that's where I was at. And then as I embarked in my healing journey of soul work, for me, plant medicines have been very instrumental. Working with therapists, coaches, like unbelievable levels of personal work on my own, just a lot of time in
Good.
silence and nature, reading good books, doing actual work, journaling, workbooks. Through that journey, I've now come to a place where um, it's everything that I do is a want to, and done with love and care. And so it's if I'm feeling like overly stressed, or I'm like, like that feels unkind to myself. And I'm like, what's going on there?
Mm.
And
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, no, I won't tolerate that. Like it's like I'm like a guardian of my inner child is what it feels like, and making sure she's good and making sure I'm good. And so what has happened is, like, I went from this, I'd say, very typical woman. Like, there's so many women like that, where you're just kind of overweight. You're not like obese. You're like the kind of overweight crowd, and like nothing, you can't ever figure it out, to, well, I figured it out real good, too
Yeah.
good. I went crazy on it. And then for me, it was, doing my inner work that helped me to heal and release all this pressure from myself. And like, it's more about, what do I need now? Right. Staying in the here and now more. And it's been a lot of work. It's been a lot I'm not trying to undermine how much work that will be if somebody wants to do all that. Like, I've been going ham for like the last 6, 7 years, like crazy. So, but it has led me to this place of like a really beautiful place that I didn't know was possible. So I'm grateful for the whole crazy journey.
So you started the real healing journey as a fit person with walking around with the glistening six pack. So in many ways, you had done some great things for your body. You were feeling good. You were sending the right signals to your hormones, neurotransmitters, as we'll
Yeah.
talk about further. However, it seems as though, as you described, the motivations to do so, you're motivated by anger,
Fear.
fear, all these negative
Right.
things that got you up and out of your couch position into the
Right.
gym. And so
Right.
it sounds like a staircase where at least you were taking care of your body.
Yeah.
Let's
And
put
I
the
will.
motivators aside for a moment. You were still out there pushing weights up in the air.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad you said it that way because I don't feel like I framed that well. I do think the beginning of my healing journey was in that trauma response of getting healthy because nothing is
Mm,
like it's not like I was only in a bad way at that time in my life. Nothing is that simple. I was also fascinated by the human body, like learning so much, increasing, yes, my mental health. Like I did end up getting divorced, which was very needed for me in my life. I got out of a major religion, which was a huge thing for me. Like, I mean, we're talking drop a nuke on your life and start over. That's the level of crazy. But getting healthier gave me not even gave me the strength. That's not even that. It woke me up. I always call it my
mm.
accidental personal awakening. It was like all of a sudden I was like, yeah, I'm not okay with this. Like there is so much mindset work that you do on a journey to getting healthy. You have to be brutally honest with yourself about all your patterns. Like you have to learn like self-belief and believing in yourself to be able to change those patterns. There's so much self-talk that has to come in or you just won't get there, right? So there was a part of the journey, definitely the mindset work started as I got more fit
Mm.
and then but the spiritual aspect of that healing journey came as I came out of that back into the middle of the pendulum swing is where I'd say I am now.
Um, yeah, and the pendulum's always capable of swinging. So it's
Yeah.
a day by day process and
Yeah.
workout by workout, decision
Yeah.
by decision. But at least you have all these habits underneath where um, if Tara spins
Right.
out today, it's that day when you went into the gym when you were a little overtrained, you did one set and you go, shit, maybe I should just do a walk. So that was like your
Mhm.
that was a detour rather than months
Right.
of, self
Right.
torture of whatever.
Right. You get it.
Uh, so the the thing that comes to mind here is that there are probably a lot of people that are deeply immersed into fitness and physical taking care of the body. I see a lot of that in the
Mhm.
endurance scene that I was
Mhm.
in for so long,
Mhm.
or any sort of gym scene
Mhm.
where it's almost imperceptible that
Mhm.
there's a missing spiritual component.
Mm.
Where if you can just get in shape, then everything in life is wonderful, and you've finished your personal healing and hard
Mhm.
work journey.
Mhm.
And I wonder if you kind of pick up on any of that, especially as you work with clients and real people,
Mhm.
where it's covering up so well the pain and suffering that's going on internally because, well, I mean, you can show the same thing for earning a good income and consuming luxury items, as well as having a really fit body. It sort of seems like a cover up in a lot of ways, or just training super hard like an endurance athlete
Mhm.
day after day after day.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that people who are, ultra marathoners or these that maybe that they just love it, and that's part of
Mm,
it too, is like I had a client recently that well, she's still a client, but she was shaming herself. Her family didn't understand her love for exercise. She's loved it since she was a little girl. She took herself to her own, she won state championships and things in high school, just all on her own, like complete. And so, like, part of her healing work was just owning, just no, it's there's nothing wrong with you. Do you love this? You just let that
yeah.
that's also a possibility, It's like sometimes it's okay to do it's more than okay. I encourage everyone to do things they love doing. And for her, that was like just kind of the permission that she needed. Like, okay, yeah, there's nothing wrong with me just because the people around me don't love exercise or, running or things like this. Like, doesn't mean something wrong with me because I'm doing that. So there's definitely that. It's like, do you just love it? Okay. The other side of that is how are you doing in the other areas of your life?
Mm,
And do you feel a compulsion to do these things as a result of a negative emotion that you literally want to run from? right? And so that is a possibility too. Like, I mean, have worked with over exercisers that to the point that it is like exercise bulimia. It is like a OCD type behavior of crap. I'm really stressed out. I just freaking want to run.
Mm,
Crap. I don't want to deal with this thing with my kids or my spouse, or I'm just going to freaking run. Crap. Like I ate too much. Maybe I have some stuff going on with food. I better go run. Or, like if it's a compulsion like that, that you start to notice as a result of a stressful thought, now that's something to take a look at. Right. And so I would assume there's probably some people in the endurance community or even just the gym community going through something like that. And that's when it's really helpful to start doing some deeper work of like, okay, you know what? I'm going to accept that my relationship or my kids or work stuff, like there's some stuff going on there. And instead of just running from it, literally, or
mm,
biking from it or gymming from it, I'm going to go in. I'm going to feel my feelings and I'm going to do some work here, And the biggest thing is like, if you can afford it at all, I would definitely get a coach. You will just get there
mm,
so much, like a mindset coach or something like that, a therapist, a healer of some sort. Because like getting there yourself is like you probably would have if you could have. You need new information,
mm.
So that's my
Yeah.
thoughts on that.
So when you decided to extricate from your physically and emotionally unhealthy lifestyle, did you do that on your own? Did you start out with a coach when you first got off the couch and aspired to lose weight and get in shape?
With the gym stuff and nutrition, no. You know what, Brad? I was like the typical mom who just follows a bunch of people on social media and just does what they do. Okay. And because it was like my why was so strong, because it was like, I
Mm,
have to be enough for my husband, all this stuff.
mm,
It drove action like crazy. So I actually didn't start getting actually educated until I decided to become a trainer and then nutritionist and then go into holistic health and all of these things. The healing journey, spiritual healing journey, no. That I definitely had help on that.
mm,
So, I'd say the biggest part of my healing journey is from a woman named Catherine Dixon. It's like the work of Byron Katie inspired work. It's just getting into your subconscious and finding out what's going on under there, plus plant medicines. And then of course, like I've hired other mindset coaches, a couple other different mindset coaches, and have done a lot of workbooks. Like I like workbooks because you have to
mm,
actually pull something out of yourself. It's
mhm,
very different than just listening to a book or a podcast.
mm,
So I would say, yeah, I mean, did I fully know what I was doing on my own getting in shape? No. Did I learn a lot more when I became a trainer and a nutritionist and got educated? Definitely. So, I mean, of course you can do it on your own, but at least in my experience, the emotional stuff, that's way harder at healing yourself than the training nutrition type stuff. So, really recommend working with somebody on that stuff.
And now that you're a coach, can a coach still benefit from a coach? Are you still kind
Always.
of engaging in that level?
Oh, I always have at least one coach going at a time in different areas. I love being coached. It's so I feel like I have to, right? Like it's just living, preaching, walking the walk. And I just want to. I just want to explore and see what else could be lurking under the surface that
Mm,
maybe I don't know, learn different practices, learn from different mentors and teachers. Like it's amazing to do that. I'd say like most coaches I know have coaches, you know. It's pretty typical.
yeah, mean, I think the mere act of reaching out and looking for support and engaging with someone, and it's like maybe you know more than them or whatever the example is, but the fact
Yeah,
that you're engaging and talking about it, you just learn so much.
so
I
much.
think it's great. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So you talk about this. One of your, I guess, core principles these days is having this relationship with your body, and you've already
Mhm.
kind of talked about it from going from the
Mhm.
pendulum and the other way. But what do you mean by that in detail?
Thank you for asking. I love talking about
Yes,
this.
and you only have 15 minutes because this is
Okay.
Tara's future TED Talk, a relationship
Okay.
with
All
your
right.
body. So we're going to practice
Ready?
right now. What do you mean relationship with my body? Of
Oh
course
my
I have a
gosh.
relationship with my body.
Dude, I have developed a relationship with my body that I just definitely know is so needed in the world. We don't have relationships with our bodies. Not really. We believe that our bodies are us. And this is what leads to like if your body looks weird, you don't like yourself. If your body looks better, you temporarily like yourself more. You're comparing yourself to everybody, both on a performance level and on an aesthetic level. So that shows that we think our bodies are us. We think it's kind of like the abusive parent being like, "You're a reflection of me. Get your crap together." And that's how I
Mm,
see most people relating to their bodies. It's that it's
mm,
conditional love, it's expectations. It's I'll love you if and when you blah 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 meet whatever expectation. Meanwhile, your body, which is not you, because we know that the body turns into dust and decays and all that stuff. And I believe that there's something actually in our bodies making me animated right now and moving around, not just a body, right? So whatever you believe that is, soul, whatever, something, some sort of consciousness is in this body that is going to die and turn to dust. So this body, when we have gratitude and we really think about it, while you're saying, I'll love you when you don't have a flat tire around your belly, like, you're so gross. Look at all that nasty cellulite on your butt. Oh, looks like you're getting older. Can't run like you used to. Like, all of these abusive, like disregarding, invalidating things. Meanwhile, your body is doing millions of things for you. Think of your immune system, your cardiovascular
mm,
system, all that your brain's doing, your muscles, like all of the cellular processes that your body is doing nonstop for you. It will make every workaround that it possibly can for you to thrive. If something's going wrong, it will send you signals. It will reroute. It is doing everything that it can to make sure that your life, whatever your fill in the name blank is in this existence you're in right now, it's doing everything it can for you to thrive. And it's pretty amazing, some of the stuff that it does. And so the healing from this and what has led me mostly into this place of ease that I feel now is
mm.
when I sit down to meditate in the morning, which I highly recommend, highly, highly, highly recommend. I sit down. The first thing I do is I check in with my body. I just feel it. I just notice. It's just noticing. I'm like, huh, okay. I hear you. Right. Just
Mm.
tapping in a little bit. And then is there, I usually say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you for it. I look at it as a separate entity as me, actually a bunch of little entities all working together, like a little organization that's depending on me and helping me. Like there is a two-way communication going on. So I'll say, is there anything you need? And I just honor
Mm,
whatever comes up. It's
mm,
just maybe it's pretend, but it's been working. So it's like, okay, maybe I hear like, um, fish oil, like so much fish oil. Oh, I'm
yeah,
like, okay, I'll just roll with it, you know? So it's usually going to be common sense. It's like, hey, can you get that like shoulder thing worked on? Cause like that would be nice. Okay. Yeah. I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to go get it
mm,
worked on. Right. Hey,
mm,
you know what? Like you have not been eating very many like whole foods lately. Like when's the last time you had a vegetable? Okay. I got you. I hear you. I'll give you some vegetables or whatever that is for you. Maybe, carnivore people, maybe it's, salmon or meat, right? But it's just this process of being saying, "Hey, I'm noticing you first of all. I'm like actually noticing, I'm feeling you.
mm,
I'm
mm,
saying thank you for all the million things that we don't even know. I don't even know. Nobody fully understands the body. Nobody fully understands the gut or the immune system. Like we're still learning. So it's like, dude, thank you. And is there anything you need? And that process, and it continues through the day for me of like, I hear
mm,
you. Sometimes my body's like, no, dude, I'm not hungry right now. And sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, dude, can you please get in some like salmon? I need, something
mm,
like that. And I'm like, okay. And it's this very playful, but also respectful relationship. And that, if we can establish more of that, like tuning in instead of looking outside of ourselves of how am I supposed to do this, completely disregarding what our own body
mm,
is communicating with us constantly. Like, I believe that's the path to ease. And yes, are there some like hard times you might have to go to get to that place? Like if you've got candida and you're jonesing for candy all the time, like if you're not healthy right now, some of the things your body might be telling you to do are not
mm,
healthy. If you're on the borderline diabetes and your body's telling you need a McDonald's combo meal, that's because you haven't done enough healing work to get into a place where you can be intuitive, but you can get there. Right. And that's where, expert advice might come in to help you get to that place. But like, man, if we can, but even that, even the McDonald's, let's say you got 130 blood sugar when you wake up and you're, entering into type 2 diabetes and your body's like, yeah, dude, I want a value meal with a big Coke. It's like tapping in, like, is that really what you want? Is that really what you
mm,
need?
mm.
Like it's another level underneath the little 5-year-old.
Mm.
voice. So yeah.
Or, I mean, in that example, understanding that the reason I want this is due to my adverse lifestyle practices of the past 14 days where I was chowing down a lot of value
Yeah.
meals. And
Right.
we've talked a little bit offline about some of my reflections about energy balance and, you know, rethinking restrictive diets as, identifying them as stressors to the body
Yeah.
and then realizing that they're stacking against the other ways that we stress our body, such as an intense workout or a difficult relationship dynamics and
Mhm.
trying to have that stress rest balance. But if
Mhm.
you're if you think you're calling for McDonald's Happy Meal, dang, I just lost another sponsor for the podcast. We're just trashing McDonald's so bad. If you're really seeing that in your intuition, whatever, um, it might be because you're very bad at processing energy internally because you're not
Yeah.
fueling your body,
Yeah.
and therefore, like your intuition is buried in a pile of crap that's emanating from the decisions you make with your brain every day. Same with like the example you painted of people who are over exercising to hide and run away from things.
Mhm.
They're compelled to
Yes.
wake up the next day and they do a short meditation like Tara recommends, and it says, "Get out there and slam another 13-mile run," and that's really where they're at.
Yeah.
And so it's, I guess, when you talk about that mind-body connection, and healing, there's a lot of levels here, but mainly just, getting in
Mhm.
touch and speaking to each other,
Mhm.
having the mind and body really communicate well.
Yeah, I love that insight, and it is whenever it's a compulsion, like, people
Mm.
ask me, like, do you get cravings?" I'm like, "You know what? I used to when I was, like, in a restrictive mindset with food, they were
Oh.
so out of control." But I was like, I just don't resonate on that frequency anymore, like, it doesn't even land. I'm like, "Cravings, let me think about that," like, I mean, bes besides just being hungry and, like, what kinda sounds good in that moment, but I don't look at that as a craving, I just look at that as what sounds good to eat right now and makes sense and is best for me, and so when it's a compulsion, like, "I
Mm,
gotta have a freaking ice cream, I gotta have McDonald," like, let it be a teacher to you, just like, "I gotta
mm,
go run," like, "Ugh, I
mm,
gotta," like, if it's a compulsion that feels like it's overriding you, that's something you can look
mhm.
at it as a teacher, like, "What's going on with me here?" Right? And you can learn a lot if you're willing to look at it like that.
I guess that's where the meditation skill comes in. My friend Dave Rossi, numerous times on the podcast, he talks about when you can develop that ability to, calm the mind,
Yeah.
then you can do that right at that moment when you're passing by the McDonald's and about to make an impulsive decision, and
Mhm.
get good at that throughout the day
Yeah.
through, a meditation practice. And I guess it's a form of meditation to pull over in front of McDonald's, stop for a minute, and then continue driving, or any of those things where you're acting in a mindful manner.
Mhm. Yeah, and I used to eat at McDonald's all the time. I've got 4
Oh,
kids.
I
So
see.
as an adult, it was very common for me to drive past McDonald's right by my house. "Oh, yeah, that sounds way easier. Let's just get that."
Mm,
So when I was getting healthy, you have to find these things that work for you. I would feel that urge. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's like 1:30. My kids are starving. I'm starving. Everyone's starving. We just went to library, book, whatever, circle, and like we're all hungry." And that would just sound so easy and it's cheap and it's fast. And so what worked for me was, 1, I had to learn the skill of having things ready at my house, right? That was a new skill because it was like, dude, so what would help me
mm,
is like, you just cooked all that stuff in the crock pot. It's ready and waiting for you. Like, you can do this. You can do this. You can wait till you get there,
mm,
And I had to talk myself off of a ledge sometimes. I'm like, that sounds so yummy and cheap and easy. It's like, no, no, no. And a question I ask myself a lot is, old patterns or new patterns? Which one is it going to be? Are you going to choose old patterns or new patterns right now? And it's like the freedom of that choice is very, empowering. It's like you can choose either one. Just know which one are you gonna choose, right? And so that's like a clutch moment
mm,
where you're like you're dysregulated in your nervous
mm.
system. It's just like, whoop, old patterns or new patterns, right? And maybe you're gonna like yell at your kid or somebody. You're just like, oh, I feel it. I feel, oh, no, 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 no. Oh, breathe. Right. So it can help with food choices and the decision to work out and all of that too. But it's so much of our I feel like what we're missing in health is this massive disconnection from self. It's this inner bully, you should blah, blah, blah. I've gotta go to the gym. Like, it's like a
Mm,
stressor. It's like, no, you don't. You don't have to ever go to the gym. You don't have to eat healthy. You don't have to sleep. You don't have to do any
mm,
of that stuff. You don't have to make
mm,
goals. Probably don't even have to work. You can figure it out and just be homeless.
mhm.
I mean, like, I take it to that level with my clients sometimes because when we get into this place of like, I have to, blah, 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 we're like this victimized inner child that's like, then we rebel. It's like, it's
Mm,
not about any of that. It's about, okay, what do I want for me? I want to feel good. Okay.
mm,
So when do you want to start working out consistently? Probably the morning is best. Okay.
mm.
Like, you don't have to, but do you want to? Yeah, I want to. Gosh, you get into that want to energy and it's like, it's so different. It's not hard to be consistent when you're doing what you want. And the analogy I give is coffee. When people tell me, wow, they see my muscles, right? They're like, wow, that's a lot of hard work. That's a lot of hard work. And I'm like, I don't see it like that.
Mm,
I had a comment, I shared a
mm,
workout this morning and a woman said, "You workaholic," right? She's just playing with me. And I said, "Just having fun at recess." Because
mm,
that's literally what it feels like to me. I'm not, it's not like that. I'm exploring, I'm discovering what I'm capable of. I want to be in there. I love doing that. I like getting my music on and playing and like see, it's like, oh man, I was doing some of those Bulgarian split squats in the middle of a giant set and I had 60 pounds and I was dying. I was sprinting, lunging, step ups, Bulgarian split squat. I mean, it was brutal, but it was like my mentality isn't like, yeah, I got to do this to have
mm.
muscle or blah, blah, blah. It was like, let me see what I can do. I'm like, you got it. You got it. It's almost spiritual when you look at it that way. It's just like, it's seeing what you're capable of can be fun. It doesn't have to be this checklisty, like, okay, did my workout today.
Mm.
I don't think you'll ever be consistent if that's how you're looking at it. It's just like
Um,
having a morning cup of coffee. It's like,
mm.
no one's congratulating you for having how are you so consistent with that? Wow. That's how I feel about my healthy practices. It's like, nah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I say the same about my morning exercise routine, which it's funny for me to be touting this as a life-changing behavior since I've been an athlete my entire life, and it's sort of an automatic area of life. It's not like a needs to improve area, but it
Right.
really has been a change to get
Mm.
up every day and know with great certainty that I'm going to immediately hit the deck and commence this exact
Yeah.
sequence of the same exercises. And
Mm.
it's sort of in that habit category where if
Yeah.
I don't do it because we had to catch a plane or something, it's on my mind like I
Mhm.
don't feel whole today because this feels like a habit, like I forgot to brush my teeth.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
this is a delicate conversation because I imagine you get a lot of clients who can't immediately embrace that, and they're really driven hard into that mindset that I need to, I have to, I should to. As
Mhm.
you relate in the back of your mind, I want to be, validated by my romantic partner,
Yeah.
and I'm not enough right now, so I need to, I need to, I need to.
Mhm.
And boy,
It's a
it's hard. It's hard to get out of that.
Yeah, it's a constant process. One of the main books I always have my clients reading a book. I always want them reading a book while they're working with me. And one of
Dang,
the
people,
main
how about this? Wait, I mean, the phones are ringing off the hook to sign up. This is so awesome. It's great. Yeah, get your clients on a book today, the Book of the Month Club.
They're very helpful. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
And one of the main books I recommend for most clients is Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff. So I believe compassion, self-compassion is the ticket to growth. I believe without self-compassion, you can't really grow because this is what Kristen Neff, she's a shame researcher. I mean, a compassion researcher out in Austin, Texas. I really want to meet her. She's amazing. But what she teaches is that when you don't have compassion on yourself, you avoid processing things because there's pain associated with it. So let's say, for example, you just hired this new coach and you've got your workout plan and you didn't do any of the workouts the whole first week. And it's like, dude, I just paid all this money.
Mm,
Oh, freak, dude, get your crap together. That's the usual self-talk that happens. Like, I don't even want to tell her I didn't do it. Oh my gosh. Like, duh. Like that kind of, that's the opposite of self-compassion. That is self-abuse. I don't look at that as negative self-talk. I consider it self-abuse because it's
mm,
so unkind to this part of you that really wants to feel better and do better. And you're learning and you're in your, it's like, it's not going to happen overnight. I always tell people, I'm like, if we got things on the first try, we would all be Michael Jordans and LeBron James and Andre Agassi's. Like, That's not how it works. Like it takes time to learn new skill. There's so much behind it. And so it's compassion. When compassion comes in, when you can have just an ounce of self-compassion, be like, hey, put your hands on your heart. Like,
Mm,
it's okay. Right. We don't, the inner bully is like, no, it's not okay. We think that's going to lead
mm,
to complacency, but that's not what I mean by it's
mm,
okay. It's just like, I'm here with you. What do you think is going on? And it's like, I'm actually really nervous to go into a new gym. I feel like everyone's going to look at me or
mm.
whatever that is for somebody. I'm actually like, I'm dealing with a lot of guilt for leaving my kids when I go work out. Okay. Okay. And then taking yourself through a process of like, so what do you think would be best for you and your kids if I definitely if I went and worked out? Okay. So how can you communicate that with your kids, you know, and how can you be with yourself more in that? It's like, dude, I need to know that I will be in a better mood all day and a better mom to them if I go work out. Okay, I'm gonna tell them that and ask them vulnerably for support and let them know where I'm at. That's the kind of stuff that happens when you have self-compassion versus, oh, I can't believe I didn't do it. And so yeah, it's a constant reminder process. Like I've got a client that's just this morning we're checking in and she got out of the loop last week and
Mm,
it's just like she's like I can't wait to get back. I teach them to notice how they feel as a result of how they're living. It's just so how did you feel that week? There's no shame in it. Just how did you feel that week that you
mm,
didn't meditate or work out?
mm,
I mean, she shared vulnerably on a call with all my clients Friday. She's like, I felt horrible, horrible. Like my stress levels were way higher. I was depressed, anxious. I'm like, okay. And it's like, and just in a loving way, notice that for yourself, right? Like, I don't like how that felt. And then when you get back into it, she's texting me pictures of how much she's leg
mm,
pressing this morning, which was pretty impressive. And she's like, look, and I'm like, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? Not, hey, good job, good girl, bad girl
mm,
stuff. Like, how are you feeling? Um, Good. I'm like, okay, cool. And it's just noticing that. It's that same thing I've been talking about this whole time. It's just noticing how you feel as a result of the choices that you're making and then adapt as you go. There doesn't need to be all this good, bad thinking, shame, you know, little stuff that we picked up as kids. Just be with yourself,
mm.
notice how you feel and move along accordingly.
So I'm gonna pair that with those great comments a bit ago where you said, you don't really have to set any goals. You don't have to go to gym in the morning. You
Yeah.
you, you take the
You don't have,
pressure off and
right.
clear all the smoke and then decide how you want to live your life. And I think that's the most powerful. I mean, that's swinging the pendulum back to the beautiful
Mhm.
center of power here in the middle where you're not
Mhm.
compelled and driven by these demons.
Yes. Yes. And we all deserve that. It's just
Mm,
recentering. I do the same thing with food coaching. It's like
mm.
you can have you can have whatever you want because that is reality. We have to live in reality
Mm,
is you have a debit card or a credit card or cash or whatever, and there's literally anything that you wanna eat anywhere. You can literally eat it. So we gotta stop with this, "I can't have blah, blah, blah." Like, that
mm,
is what makes you end up binging and all of this behavior. If you fully will accept, I can have whatever I want. I can have 10 gallons of alcohol and 500 cupcakes and 20 cheeseburger. Like, of course you can. You can if you want to. So
mm,
once we take that pressure off and it's just like, okay, I can have, but what do I, it's like that removes the inner rebel. The little inner rebel comes out against the bully because it's a self-imposed thing. And then if the bully goes away, there's nothing to rebel against. It's crazy how fast this process can happen when I teach my clients this. It's just like, dude, you can have that. Of course you can. And so what do you actually want? If you really want that thing, go for it. Go for it. Nobody's stopping you. Go for it. Like, it's like we got to remove that. And then I'm like, it's just think of is there anything else I can eat that will help kind of give me that fix that's like good for me, that sounds good? Just having that little process is like amazing
mm,
how quickly these like self-sabotagey
mm.
binge and restrict cycles can end. It's truly just self-imposed inner bully stuff going on. When we take the inner bully away and there's nothing to rebel against, it's crazy how quickly you mature into this mature energy of like, oh, I just get to choose my life. Oh, okay, cool.
Or take the babysitter, trainer, coach away, or the den mother who's doling out gold stars. And I like what you said just a second ago that slight revision in language when your client was texting you, and instead of saying "Good job, you're awesome," like a typical trainer, you asked, "How do you feel?" And
Yeah.
it's a huge difference because I think, especially in your profession. you know, people are looking at an aspirational figure who's really fit and is, akin to uh, giving out motivational, comments and pushing you
Mhm.
to do one more
Mhm.
set. That's our typical perception
Mhm.
of what the coach trainer's doing. And if you back off a few paces and let the person, decide to challenge themselves with a few more reps, that's where
Yeah.
the real magic is.
Yeah, it's all turning people back inside themselves, you
Mm,
know? That's what I'm trying to do the most. It's like, dude, I tell them all the time, I'm like, "I don't care. I don't care if you do that. You don't have to do this. It
yeah.
is up to you. I'm here to help I will go to freaking hell and back for you if you need it, right? But,
Yeah.
like, this is up to you. And so, like, I'm here to assist, but I'm not you're not this is not a no, I wouldn't say it.
Yeah.
A famous TV show female trainer that I won't name. I'm
Mm,
not I don't coach like that. It's not like
yeah.
that. I wanna
Yeah.
put the power back in the people.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I remember coaching a really fast runner a long time ago, and she was trying to qualify for the Olympic marathon trials. And she said, if I make it to the trials, will you go and watch? And I said, no. And she's like, why not? And I said, because I don't care that much. I'm not going to go watch some race. I wish you well, and I care about your performance. But,
That's
I
awesome.
purposely said it that way to it's like the parenting advice that I love so much, where you're not, trying to make your kids a show pony for your amusement.
Right.
And Carol Dweck's work, author of Mindset, I'll never forget this. I think about it every day, where there was a recommendation that instead of saying, I'm proud of you for
Mhm.
your kid's achievement, you
Mhm.
say much better. You should be very proud of yourself. You got an A on your Spanish test. And that flips the script from them trying to perform for your
Right.
amusement and perhaps incentivization to being proud for their own achievements. And I try to
Mhm.
remember that at all times. And you can say, I'm proud of the person you have become, and praise their character and things like that. But
Mhm.
there's this nuance that I see people screwing up all the time, where like, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
really proud of him. He's got a great job. And,
Totally.
wait a second, he got the job, not you. So, why are
Yeah.
you so proud?
It has nothing to do with you. Yes, I love that book. That's also one of the books on my list, and
Mm,
I love that, that was a paradigm shifting book for me.
mm,
But yeah, it's every once in a while, I admit, a little good job comes out, and I'm like, "Oh, no, I don't like the frequency of that. That's not what it is. That's not what it is. I don't you're not pleasing me. I don't want that kind of it's about you. How do you feel? What do you
mm,
want? That's it." And when we
mm.
can remember that, gosh, like, it's just so much easier to navigate every area of our lives that way. It's like, "Okay, what's wrong? What do you need? Okay, I'm gonna show up for you."
Mm.
There's no right or wrong or good or bad. There's so much black and white thinking, and we can let that go and just center in ourselves and ask ourselves what we want and need. Like, the path gets so much easier. Yeah.
So the exploration of the plant medicines and alternative health practices, whatever you want to call them, that was a catalyst for you in what way?
Oh, definitely. I can hardly talk about for me, like, psilocybin mushrooms, I hardly talk about them without crying. I'm so grateful. For me, it's just I had a lot of programming from
Mm.
being raised in a very dogmatic religion, and they have just been unbelievably helpful in helping me unwire that programming and come back home to myself.
No offense to all the great contribution that rigid and fixed cultural programming does for people, and they're a centerpiece of life for a long time. But it feels like we're in a midst of awakening in so many
Mhm.
ways in society, and it's really wonderful. And there's going to be some controversies and differences of opinion. However, it's
There are
progressing forward big time.
Yeah, there's definitely things to keep in mind. I'm not all about like some teenagers taking mushrooms and going like there are there's so much to learn that's been lost because they were made illegal. But there are
Mm,
so many teachers out there teaching best practices, teaching how they work. If you don't do your research or homework beforehand, you're very likely to have a quote unquote bad trip because you don't understand how they work, how they're teaching you how to set up your environment. So there are so many amazing resources out there. The Third Wave is a great resource. So if anybody's even like dabbling in that, like do a lot of research, read, learn before you go into a space like that.
is there any kind of residual um, challenges that come up from this fixed and rigid programming you had in your past, and also the trauma of extricating yourself from
Mhm.
the marriage. It sounds like the marriage and the
Mhm.
religion,
Yeah.
and that's no small feat to even tiptoe a bit
Yeah.
away from there. And it sounds like you've blown up that world pretty aggressively. And what happens when you feel like yourself getting off center again, possibly due to the heavy duty programming, as we all talk about the subconscious programming that we're highly influenced by at all times.
Mhm. So I just went through that like last week. I just was noticing something was wrong. I was noticing
Mm,
something was wrong. I'll be vulnerable. I was in a dating relationship and just like I was getting all these intuitive, like something's wrong, something's wrong, something's
mm,
wrong. The practices that I do, one are talk to friends about it and
mm,
I used to never talk to anybody about anything. Like I would just keep it all inside. I've learned not to do that. Not over talk about it, but a couple of close friends that I really trust just get their feedback. And interesting, the two friends had the exact same feedback. I'm like, all right, thank you, because these are
mm.
friends that I trust that'll be really honest with me. The next thing I did was I did a couple sessions with Catherine Dixon, the woman that I referenced before. I still work with her. It's been, I don't know, 5, 6 years. Um, did a couple sessions with her. One day I took half a day off and I just journaled for hours just to see what was coming out of me. And I did do a mushroom journey, a plant medicine journey that was extremely illuminating for me. Okay, so then I had my answer. I knew that this was not a go for me, okay? But what I found was what I found was a lot of inner child stuff that still needs to be heard. And so after I had the conversation and broke things off, I literally just sat there and just felt my feelings. I was like, no judgment, no trying to fix it, just noticing. And I was like, what are you feeling right now? And I was like, fear, guilt,
Mm,
shame. Guess what? Those are probably all. I mean, all of us have that to an extent, but especially when you grow up in a religion where you're
mhm,
supposed to do what you're supposed to do. Like, I was like, okay, cool. And so I just listened and I didn't try to make it go away. I didn't try to psychoanalyze it. I just felt it. And I just kept feeling it for all last week. Just like, I hear you. I hear you. And just, is there anything else you want me to know? My inner child was very dynamic. She's like, I don't like it when you blah, 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 like, and then you don't say anything. That's what it felt like to me?
mm.
And I'm like, okay, I hear you. I hear you. That makes sense. And so just talking and honestly doing a lot of inner child work, a lot of allowing the emotions to process through me versus trying to make them better, figure them out. Like, no, emotions are like, look at kids. When kids have something happen, they process immediately. They do physical release, they stomp, they hit the ground, they yell, they scream, they let it all, they cry. That is actually conscious emotional processing.
Mm,
We have learned to suppress, 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 suppress,
mm.
suppress to the point that it starts manifesting in our physiology and never gets processed. So my work now, I'd say, is allowing myself to feel, learn from my feelings, and then do active processes like journaling, talking to friends, talking to an expert that I trust, and actively working through it. And getting ready to get Nicole LaPera, the holistic psychologist book, and see if there's anything else I haven't found. And so those are kind of some of the processes. I'm just like, let's see what's in there. So yeah.
Awesome. Wow. I feel like I'm uh, defaulting to figuring everything out and being positive, unfailingly positive at all times. And now I'm trying to take a closer look at that as you describe, where maybe I could feel some different emotions and just allow those to um, play through rather
Mhm.
than, oh, I'm feeling this way because here's my new strategy
Yeah.
to alter course or distract myself from an assortment of options such as going and crushing another workout or overworking yourself in any way.
We endurance athletes really have to watch this because what I
Oof.
learned from marathoning was you literally have no other choice but positive self-talk. You can't be sitting there
Mm,
all up in your negative feels. You're not going to finish, right? Like you can't let yourself go into those spaces or you're going to crumble, right? And so I learned this very positive, like, no, dude, you got it. One more step. You got this. Just think of the end when you're done, like denying all negative emotions. And so that's something I've really had to learn is like being emotionally with emotional things in my life is like, it's okay to sit here. No, it's not, it's more than okay. It's beyond okay. It is the most optimal thing I can do.
Mhm.
to see what's coming up in me, because those emotions are the ones that were keeping me in the suboptimal habits in the first place. So they're teachers. So they're very illuminating. It's a very important part of personal growth, in my opinion.
Endurance athletes, did you listen to that? I'm so that hits home so hard, and I remember my friend calling me out several years ago as I was going through divorce, and so was another friend, and he said the problem with you guys is you have that endurance athlete mentality, and you think that
Mhm.
life is about enduring and
Mm.
persevering and toughing it out and
Right,
managing your emotions so that they don't turn you into a crying, balled up person on the side of
right,
the road at mile 18 when the race
right,
is 26 miles.
right.
And I mean, it's sort of like we could have worse problems to talk about, and Tara, the fitness queen who's in the gym slamming the weights instead of being a fatty on the couch, you could certainly have worse problems. And they talk about, oh, it's a positive addiction to triathlons or CrossFit or whatever. There's really no such thing because the definition of addiction would be something that's you're compelled to do to the extent that it harms your life. But, I think, once you get to a certain point and to continue that search as you describe right now, and thanks for sharing, last week's, situation too, 'cause, you know, I I think, if we if we kinda try to paint a pretty picture about everything,
Yeah,
that's why I'm sharing right now, is because I identify that in myself. Like, if I form a complaint or feel a negative emotion, I immediately jump to, like, a gratitude
right,
exercise because who am I to complain,
right,
because this and this, and I have, all these great things going, but
right.
that's a coping strategy
Mhm,
that
mhm.
doesn't really serve as well as owning everything, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, the beautiful part of allowing those emotions, those negative emotion, quote unquote negative emotions to come up and feeling them is they will prevent you from repeating that same behavior and over. So for example, like one of
Mm,
the things I'll share very vulnerably that came up for me was I was afraid he was going to be mad at me. That's the inner child, right? Like
mhm,
not he was super nice and respectful and like very adult about it, and but my inner child had this, I felt fear, literally
mm,
physical fear. I felt physical fear that he was gonna be mad at me, and it all stems from my older brother, like, just being super physically abusive with me growing up. I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And so when I allowed myself to feel that, I'm talking multiple days of just kinda in the crappy craps, And as I allowed I was like, "That's what's blocking you from speaking your voice as much as what's really true for you, because you're afraid he's gonna be mad at you. Got it, got it." And so that's why I'm doing so much healing work right now, because I'm like, okay, there's still some unhealed inner child stuff. That's interesting, Like that's interesting that I like literally felt afraid of him, afraid of his anger. Like that's some stuff to look at. And that I easily could have been like, well, you know what? Good for me for having boundaries and being true to
mm,
myself. And like all the positive stuff that I've also learned, because gym people do this too with weightlifting.
mm,
You learn to like positive your way, like I got this, all this, coping mechanism stuff, because you're in the hardest of hard physical, you are literally in fight or flight in those moments.
mm.
Right? So you learn how to have all these awesome coping strategies when you're in fight or flight. But emotionally and the rest of your life, it's like, no, no, we need to explore these because they will prevent you from keep repeating those same patterns over and over.
You don't need to. You can get stuck for the rest of your life, people, just in
Yeah.
survival mode, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of us are, right?
Yeah, you can also do that.
Gotcha.
Yes. Full permission.
You don't need to do anything, people. You can just wake up shaking and
It's
slam your
true.
coffee and go and run around scared. But I'm hoping I want the listener to reflect or push the 30-second back button because when you said, um, you were scared that he was gonna be mad at you, therefore, you didn't allow yourself to, to feel the emotions. I think I always come up with a simple example of, the emotion of guilt, and,
Mm,
like, I feel really guilty that I haven't visited my elderly aunt who lives 10 miles
mhm,
away in the nursing home and loves to see me, but I've been so busy,
mhm,
and I feel really bad that I don't get there much, and because I feel guilty, it gives
mhm,
me permission to perpetuate the behavior of not
mhm.
visiting her. Because if
Yeah.
I didn't feel guilty, I'd be a lazy, uncaring asshole that can't even be
Mm,
bothered to go and spend 20 minutes with
mm,
someone who, would love for me to visit. And so
yeah,
you get stuck and you're playing all these games and calling upon guilt anytime you reach for the extra pint of ice cream at night. You're not a lazy fat slob. You're someone who feels really guilty because you broke your diet, and you're going to feel guilty the next
right.
evening and the next time you do it.
Yeah, guilt is one of the most corrosive emotions, and, Catherine Dixon teaches this. It's a Byron Katie concept of the 3 businesses. Byron Katie there's God's business, your business, other people's business. Catherine,
Oh.
who's been my teacher, calls them the 3 realms of power. My realm of power, their realm of power, God or the universe's realm of power. And so guilt is always you're outside of your realm of power. It's you my aunt would be better off if I visited her. She is suffering because of me. Like she is sad. You know what I mean? And so it's like
Mm,
you're outside of your, it's like, what do I want? And sometimes it's owning like I don't want to go visit her all the time.
mm,
And I'm not obligated to, and I don't have to. And
mm,
it's not my job. It's, and like removing the somebody else's emotions are now I'm in charge of that. Their happiness is dependent on me. And it's super common. We all do that. That's a great example because like I think most 99.9% of people would be going through that same emotion. But that's what I've learned about guilt is I'm acting like their happiness depends on me, which is completely outside. It's like, and I have found that a lot of times when I come back into like, okay, do you want to or do you not? And it's like, I don't. And then you can get deeper and it's like, well, why don't you? And it's
mm,
like, well, it's really uncomfortable and we never talk about anything that matters. And
mm,
like, okay, what do you want to do? What helps you feel good? you know, I could, I think it would be kind of cool if I gave her some of that health product that I like. And maybe I could do like once a month. I would personally like to do that once a month and see if she likes it. Okay,
mm,
cool. Right. And
mm,
getting into those, but it's
mm,
always getting outside of our realm of power, guilt. And it's such a crappy emotion, that one. But it's a teacher. It's such a teacher. It's like, what am I thinking? What responsibility am I taking on here that I don't need to be taking on? Where am I unclear with myself? And
mm.
what I actually want and need. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I do that exercise sometimes and realize that whatever the thing that triggers me is a growth opportunity. So I have to engage with
Yeah.
someone who I find difficult. Why do I find them difficult? It's because of whatever I'm bringing to the table, and I can choose a different method of interacting where I don't have to get triggered and don't have to,
Mhm.
I might be guilty of, I want the world to be exactly as I think it should. And I want people to eat the diet that I think is the best and prioritize fitness like I do every morning. And then when you run up against friction along those things, it's pretty funny because you can certainly put the mirror up and say, okay, why are you the center of the universe?
Yeah.
And thereby maybe get less triggered by things that don't go perfectly in life.
Yeah, I told my 15-year-old son yesterday, I'm like, I think one of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself is, "What is going on with me?
Mm,
What is going on?" So you meet up with somebody, the it's all this friction. It's just like, what is going on with me? Like, what? And that's where it all starts for me. It's like, is this what is this actually? Am I just I don't like this frequency of energy and that's just it? Or do I have some like old stuff I'm
mm,
projecting? I love to do that, but I at the end of the day, it goes with my gut on that because we can psychoanalyze that all day, but it's like, no, like trusting yourself. It's like you'll know. Like I feel like if it is me, it'll be like, dude, no, your ego is coming out here. You're like trying to win an
mm.
ego battle. Oh, okay. Okay, and but sometimes it's like, "No, dude, that is your intuition. That person is like their frequency is not something that your soul likes." Okay, got it. Manage my life accordingly.
Mm,
So, yeah.
mm. I'm running out of sticky notes, listeners. I have especially old
They're so
patterns or new
nice.
patterns question mark. Which way do you want to go?
I love that one.
Tara, thanks for spending time with us. This is super amazing, and of course, we can talk about fitness all day long, and maybe we'll get you back. But I think this is, vastly more valuable because you can take this magic to anything you do, including having that wonderful energy in the gym where you're doing things because you love it. So, what does your fitness practice look like now? I mean, you're intuitive about it, but I'll bet you're probably putting in a lot of good workouts and can be found at the gym frequently.
Yeah, and I just have to say, Brad, thank you so much for having me on your show. You're such an example to me. You're such a powerhouse. Your voice is so needed. You've brought so much to the health industry, the topics of health, and to be on your show is an honor. And to also, you're just so open minded, and it's beautiful, beautiful energy. So thank you.
Thank you.
Um, I'm sure your audience really appreciates that quality about you too. You're just so open-minded and have that beginner's mind
Mm,
type mentality, and it's really cool. So my practice looks like this. I go to the gym every day, pretty much. And hear me out. Okay. Just like you were talking about with the avoiding decision fatigue, and you just have it's
mm,
everything's on autopilot. That's how my day is. And it is awesome. I find that it just makes everything so easy. So I get up at 5. Occasionally on weekends, I get up at 6, but I like that vibe. I just you'll hear me say a lot, I like that. I've learned, like, what I like. It's not because that makes me a good person or like, I personally, for my life, that works. I've got 4 kids. Sometimes I
mm.
have them every other week. Like, it just works really well for me. I get up, I meditate, do my personal development, and I go to the gym. And the gym is like this. I have my little like split that I kind of keep in my mind, right? So it's Monday is legs, Tuesdays is back and biceps, Wednesdays is glutes and abs, Thursday is shoulders and triceps, Friday is a hit circuit, Saturday and Sunday or whatever I want,
Mm,
right? But sometimes I just want to walk. It just feels in
mm,
alignment to just walk that day. So I just go, I work on my phone on the treadmill, put it on a little incline, and I just walk
mm,
for an hour and then I just go home, you know? And so I always leave room. And I personally love the creative flow of creating my workouts while I'm in there. That is part of it's like coloring. It's like probably like an artist
mm,
likes to be in creative flow and create this piece. That's how my workouts feel to me. That's why I don't like working out with other people because I'm like, "Ugh." Like I need to be in my storm of creative flow. Like I love that, right? And so like this morning was legs and it's just like this, I don't know, it's like my soul just enjoys this like, ooh, what sounds good today? And like kind of piecing together all the education over the years like, okay,
mm.
yeah, I'm going to do that for hip hinge and that's going to be quad dominate and that one's going to be power and then and I get in these little creative flows within those workouts and I really like that personally. Um and I'm also a 2A on Christian Thibodeau's neurotyping thing, and we like a lot of
Mm,
variation. So it's like I have my set schedule in mind to kind of make sure I'm covering all my bases. I like that anchor, but I like a lot of freedom and flexibility within that schedule. And that pretty much sums up my whole life. Yeah.
fantastic. Oh, and you teed us up nicely about that neurotyping. So now you can tell us about your podcast, and I want listeners to go find it and especially search for the Christian Thibodeau show because that was sensational. I'm trying to get him on my show, but I read his work. I took the test. Thank you for setting me
Mm.
up with that neurotyping test. So maybe you can plug a few things that the listeners can do, including check out your coaching offerings and
Oh,
your
thank you,
app.
Brad. Okay, so neurotyping is one of the certifications I have, comes from Christian Thibodeau. Christian's like a legend for T Nation. He's written for T Nation forever. He's a strength coach out of Canada. He looks like Vin Diesel but has a French Canadian accent. He basically, and I use this in my coaching, but basically you take a test. You can go, I don't know, I can't remember what his website is, but I have on my taragarrison.com. If you go to my discounts page, there's a link to take the test if you want to. But basically, you find out what your dominant, deficient neurotransmitters are through your personality, which is the best way to track them over time, right? Because we change throughout the day, but you can see if somebody's a little more dope sensitive to dopamine or a little more adrenaline dominant. And so that episode is my first episode with Christian. I have another one. Sorry, I'm bragging. Now I got 2 and we haven't even gotten on yours once. I have another one on steroids. I had him on recently to talk about
Mm.
anabolic steroids and clear some things up about the mechanisms behind all that. But the first one, he's talking about neurotyping. And then was there something else you asked me?
The title of the podcast, we have taragarrison.com and then the coaching.
Yeah, the podcast is Inside Out Health with Coach Tara Garrison. Brad is on there, so make sure you check that out. And yeah, just everything is on my website, taragarrison.com. You can find info on my coaching, my app, I've got a retreat coming up in Maui in May 10th through 14th. And yeah, and social media, just Coach Tara Garrison across the board.
Tara Garrison, everybody, bringing it as expected. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brad.
Da 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 da.